For the majority of the rest of this chapter, I want to focus on effects and which effects we can use, what effects are included in Maschine, how we can load up our own plugins, and finally automation. But obviously before we get into that, really you need to know how to load effects up and how they're dealt with in Maschine. And as I showed you the way that we use panning and level per sound and per group, I'm going to show you the same thing with effects. And we can add effects to 3 different areas essentially in Maschine. We can add them per sound. So if we've got an individual, let me just turn my monitor mix up a little bit. If we've got an individual sound that we want to add an effect to, let's say this clap here, we'd go to modules and you can see here that there is already some effects loaded in the factory kit. Now I can turn the mix up here. It's a room reverb and the settings are all here. And if I turn up the size, you can hear that effect being added. Now, if there's a blank tab, we can add extra effects and we can do that by hitting Shift and Browse. And all of a sudden the factory effects units are brought up and we can scroll through them quite easily here and just load any one of them up. So if we wanted to load the delay up, for instance, it's that easy to load them up. Now we can do that on the hardware, and as usual, we can do it right here on the software. And it's probably a little easier to do on the software. You've probably got a little bit of a better view because you've got drop-down menus. So you can see everything in the menu. Plus, you can see the plugins list. So anything you've got on your system, you're going to be able to load right here from the plugins list. Obviously, huge amount of plugins here. But it will deal with VST and audio units. But essentially, that's how you add an effect to a sound. And this can be any single sound. You can have 4 effects per sound. So it's pretty mind-blowing in that, every single kit can have 4 effects per sound. So 64 effects total. You can tell my maths is amazing. And I just immediately added that up in my head. But yeah, 64 effects per kit and 8 kits. So, mind-boggling amount of effects. But also, each group can have 4 effects on it. So sort of a master effects per group. So if you go to group, you can see there's 4 tabs here immediately. If you hit browse twice, by the way, you can just come straight out of that browsing system that we're in. But if we wanted to put something on this kit, say we wanted a master reverb, we can go back in and we can add reverbs, flanges, whatever you like. Let's add metaverb, for instance, to this entire group. Okay, so that's the effects that you can apply per group. Okay, and then after that, we've got master effects as well. And if I click on the master tab, and that's here, master group sound. Okay, so you can click on it right here, and then we can add 4 effects to the master. And essentially, this is going to be mastering processes. I very much doubt you want to put a reverb on every group in your entire Maschine project. You're more likely going to want to put compressors and limiters. Right now, I've got the FabFilter Pro L limiter, which I showed you in the previous tutorial, and we can edit that right here. And that's on the master, okay? Now, if I wanted to, for instance, put the FabFilter limiter on tab 4 here, in the software, I can move this around and drag and drop it, okay? So this means that the chain is changed, and I can then put, say, a compressor on the master, and that's the stock compressor. You'll notice the stock compressors generally have controls laid out. Some plugins will do as well, which is quite cool. And the pages will actually of plugin controls can actually be browsed through like this. Or you can use the arrow buttons on the hardware. But you can change the order of the effects just by dragging and dropping at any time, and that can be done on the group, sound, or master. So that is exactly how you add effects to the sounds, individual sounds, the groups, and the master output. It's very straightforward. You can use any of the stock, which are in the immediate list, or any of your VST or audio unit plugins that Maschine has scanned. And this can be done in the preferences. Very straightforward. Just select your location and it's done. It'll scan them on startup and they should all be available to you. So next up, we're going to take a look at the actual effects that are available in Maschine as stock effects. And we're going to kick off with dynamics. I'll also maybe dip into some third-party stuff so you can see it in action. But essentially, I want to try and stick to the stock stuff so you can repeat it at home when you're watching. So we'll get into that now, and we'll look at compression and limiting and see how we can apply it to this track we're working on.